Hello, everybody. I thought that we would just talk about the appendix today, but we ended up having to talk about Discord compromised fun times. But anyway, let's focus on the appendix because we can give maybe some life advice to anyone in the future. If they experience similar symptoms, they can know, hey, I should get this checked out myself. So trying to do a public health service here by explaining what I went through so that you can not necessarily not go through it yourself, but if you are going through it yourself, know to go to the emergency room, I guess. So had my appendix removed on Wednesday, so we're now about three and a half days out from it actually being removed from my insides, along with a little extra little poo stone, which is apparently part of it. Well, I'll get into that. Anyway, so basically, like, after the racetrack last week, when I got home, first day I was, like, pretty okay. But the next day, I did my usual workout. When I got to the abs in my workout, it's like, it was feeling like there was a little extra soreness in my leg lifts. And I was like, oh, maybe it's just because, you know, the harnesses were really, really tight. If you watch the video that I posted on the vlog channel, I was like, man, it felt really tight. And there were some times of like ultra discomfort when I was driving the car where I had to pull into the pits, loosen them, shift things around, make some adjustments down below. And maybe I misinterpreted the locale of what the pain actually was down there from what you might have expected to it actually being appendix related. And I asked the doctors and a friend who is a hip surgeon as well. He was actually with me at the racetrack. Like, are there any cases where appendicitis can like happen as a result of tight belts? And they said, not really any evidence we've seen, but there's nothing that would suggest if you already had something kind of like on the way that wouldn't maybe aggravate it a little bit more and make it come on quicker. So, like, maybe I already had a little bit of appendicitis forming and then those tight belts, like, kind of set it over the edge. Possible, apparently. Anyway, so, like, it was a little bit sore feeling when I was doing the leg lifts. The next day, I just felt like I kind of had, like, I don't know if it was a stomach. It felt like it could have been gas, but it didn't feel exactly like if I were to fart, it would relieve it. It was a similar location, like similar kind of feel, but there was just a slight difference to it than what gas would normally be like. But I wouldn't really know how to elaborate on what it felt like other than to equate it to that. And then there were some times where it kind of like flare up a little bit more and just feel maybe like a little bit of muscle soreness in general abdominal area, but it was like very centered. The pain, it was very centered to the abdomen. It wasn't to one side or the other. And so that sort of general ab pain continued for like 2 more days. And then I woke up on Tuesday night to go pee. And as soon as I like get up from bed, I feel a kind of sharp stinging pain down in the peeing area. But just as I'm like getting up from bed, I'm like, that's not normal. That definitely does not feel normal. And then I go pee and it's like, it's a little stingy, but not like from going pee, but kind of up further inside. It's kind of stinging as I'm going pee. And so again, I'm like, not normal, definitely not normal, but it's also the middle of the night. So I'm like, okay, maybe I just really strained a muscle or something like that. So I, sleep through until the morning, talk to Kara. Kara goes, sounds similar to the symptoms when I've had a UTI. And so maybe you should just go to urgent care, check, get a urine test, see if you have a UTI, can tell them about, going to the racetrack. So I made a quick appointment at urgent care, went in, did a urine test. It all came back negative. I didn't have any other symptoms. Like, I wasn't nauseous. I wasn't vomiting. I did have a little bit of a loose poopy that morning, which did look, it was like an unusual looking boopy. And I mentioned that to him, but it wasn't like it was done. It was that and then done. It didn't like keep going. And it wasn't like, going worse and worse and worse. So I tell them the symptoms, and, she says, so you exercised after you did the racetrack, you have the tight belts. Maybe you do just have a muscle strain. So I'd recommend, take it easy. And, if it's not better in a few days, then you can come back or, see a primary care, something like that. So I'm like, okay. Cause at that point it's not too bad. I'm still, able to drive there, walk into the office, sit in the waiting room and hang out, and I'm not suffering. I'm not keeled over. So day went on. I streamed on Tuesday, and, while I was streaming on Tuesday, I think I was like, yeah, my stomach doesn't feel super great. And I had told everybody on stream I went to urgent care, and I think I recorded the parkour video, and I was like, hey, they just said it was probably muscle strain. So, we'll see what happens in a few days, how I'm feeling. After the stream ended, it started to get a little worse, but the thing is, it never got to the point where I was like keeling over, dying, which is always what I had thought would be happening if your appendix was going to burst. I thought it would be just like insufferable pain. You can't move. You're on the ground in agony. And it was absolutely, it totally never reached that point. Like, it was uncomfortable. And it was worse after stream than when I had gone into urgent care earlier. And that's why I was like, okay, if it's just a muscle strain, it doesn't make sense that after I took it easy the whole day and didn't exercise, that it would somehow be feeling worse than it did this morning. That just doesn't track. And also, if it were a muscle strain, you'd think that, maybe after an initial bit of aggravation, it would kind of move to only happening when you're actually moving around and doing something that would like move the muscles. So I was like, this is not, seems weird. Doesn't seem right. And so I told Cara, I'm like, maybe instead of just going to bed and then waking up with something bad, maybe let's just go to the ER now so that we don't have to deal with it being like in the middle of the night. And so I was actually like, as I was making the decision of whether or not to go to the ER, I was just looking up some other, stories on Reddit of other people who've had their appendixes removed. And there were a few of them that were people saying like, I never had crazy pain. It was localized to, like my abs. And if I put a little pressure on the area, it would you would be able to feel it a little bit more. And that was the case. Like, if I pushed in on like my lower right abs, it would hurt a bit. But like, there's these other tests that are that are supposed to happen for appendicitis, that it's like on the opposite side of your ab. If you push in and then let it go, it's supposed to actually hurt more on the rebound. Didn't have that at all. Like, there were all these tests that just weren't happening to me, that were supposed to indicate it. But also, it's just like, there was enough saying that people weren't keeled over dying and still had their appendix out, that I was thinking, maybe it is just that. And honestly, when I went into the ER, I was kind of hoping that it would be my appendix, because I thought it would be like the most straightforward answer. Because I'm like, if it's not my appendix, bro, what the frick is happening? Like, this is clearly not good. And am I, do I have a tear inside of my intestine or something like that? So I genuinely was like hoping that it actually was appendicitis. So anyway, go into the ER, and it's a big old wait back and forth as they, first you have to wait for your name to be called. Then they have you do urine test. You go wait some more. Then come back. They do a blood draw. You go wait some more. Then they say, oh, we're going to put an IV into you. And then you wait, bro. Holy frick. Oh, she messed up the IV so badly, though. Took her like, can you see? There you go. Okay. 5 tries. 5 tries here. All right. You see over here? This is where the IV ended up going in later that night. You don't see anything. You see nothing. Nothing at all, right? 5 tries that ended up a complete failure. All right? And it wasn't at the end of those 5 tries. It wasn't done properly. So I've actually experienced this before. I think I have a problem with, if I haven't just worked out, my veins just don't get vascular enough. I haven't had a lot of water. So I had this happen at my vasectomy, where as they were putting me on the table and they're getting the IV in, I don't know if they're doing the flush or they're doing a sedative or whatever it is. Still to this day, probably the worst pain I've ever felt was they had the IV in wrong, and they start the injection, and my arm feels like it's gonna just rip off from the stinging as the stuff just diffuses through. So anyway, like I've had this happen before, and so, but I don't she finally gets it. It's kind of bothering me as I'm sitting in the waiting room, just waiting for and that was the longest wait, was after they do the IV. It's probably another hour and a half until they say, hey, we're calling you in for the CT scan. Oh my God. Bro. So the CT scan, I'm already just like nervous and shivering from the nerves because I don't like being in hospitals, and like, what the frick is going on with me? It sucks. I've never done a CT scan before. So I'm in there, and they put me through, and they have to start releasing the contrast dye into the IV. I am dying I am doing like breathing exercises, trying to stifle the pain as the contrast dye is going in. I don't feel any pain in my stomach anymore. That is gone. It's out the window. I think we're talking about probably, I was telling them 6 out of 10 on the stomach pain. So it wasn't crazy. I give 9 out of 10 as me keeled over in agony, unable to do anything. We're talking 9 out of 10 on the arm. Easy. It wasn't quite as bad as the vasectomy, but at least with the vasectomy, it was quick. I reacted and they stopped. Whereas this, I'm just I'm on the, I have to let it go. I'm on the CT scan. I have to let the fluid go in, and I'm just dying. Please let this end. Holy frick. Anyway, got through the CT scan, waited another hour or so, and then they came back and they're like, yeah, we see appendicitis. So, gonna have to operate. I've never done a CT scan, so I have no idea. I think it was the IV. I don't think it was a reaction to the contrast. Again, I'll go into more. So they said, yeah, you're going to have your appendix out. We'll get you into bed and we'll have the procedure the next morning. So I get into the bed, and the nurse starts using the IV to give me some antibiotics in prep. And there's she has to do 2 pretty sizable vials of the antibiotic. And as she's putting it in, I'm like, is this supposed to hurt that much? I'm in quite a bit of pain here. She's like, I mean, it doesn't feel comfortable usually, but I'm going slowly, and I'm like, it just hurts a lot. And she says, well, you're going to be on a fluid IV drip overnight. And she's like, it'll probably feel about the same. And I'm like, okay, no, there is no shot that anybody is being hooked up to a permanent IV drip and this is what they're feeling. There's no shot. Something's wrong. That's crazy, bro. Because I'm like, it's not as bad as the contrast for the CT scan, but I'm wincing as she's going, and I'm like, okay, no, this is not what I'm going to be feeling perpetually from the IV bag drip overnight. That can't be. It actually can't be. So then she's like, okay, maybe we just need to reset the IV, and she pulls off the existing one. She's like, that doesn't look good. And then she also notices that the vein going up my arm is getting all raised and irritated. Like you can see it protruding out. And she's like, ooh. She takes photos. She's trying to, share and make sure that this isn't going to pose a problem. Yeah, the IV was not done right. So they bring in another nurse. I guess they're like, this is the nurse who's really good at putting in IVs. She takes the other arm over here. First try. I'm like, oh, please be fine. Please be fine. I mean, it doesn't feel good getting the needle put. I hate that. I'm closing my eyes, just wincing the whole time. But they get the IV in, they start to fill, and I'm like, okay, so this is how it's supposed to be. I was not supposed to be dying in the CT scan. It was supposed to be like this. Maybe a little more painful, slightly, but I was not supposed to be like, my arm is getting ripped apart right now. So holy frick, man. That was actually probably the worst part. So anyway, the operation was a laparoscopic, so 3 very, very small, well, 1 bigger incision at the belly button, 2 smaller ones. They got the appendix out. Oh yeah, they said that when they first did the diagnosis of the appendicitis, they're like, and also you have a little, it seems like you have a little poo stone that's gotten like lodged on the tip or something. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. It's good to know that I had a little poo stone that was aggravating things there. I don't know what that looks like. I didn't get imagery of like, here's the CT scan, here's your little poo stone, but in any case, I don't know. I thought that was just a funny way to describe it. And, but also, I should mention, so that night sleeping, when I got up, when I broke the spell of not going to the bathroom, cause like, it's such a pain. You have the IV in, you don't feel great. Like, I don't want to have to pee. This sucks. I'm sure many of you have dealt with that before if you've been in hospital. But I think I actually got my first little taste of what it would be like to have kidney stones on that first breaking the seal. Holy mother of God. It might have been worse. It was quick and temporary. Like I backed off as soon as the pain started, but like as soon as I started letting it go after I had been asleep I only got like 3 hours of sleep, but I got a couple hours of sleep, woken up for, we need to run your vitals, so on and so forth. Soon it was like, whatever the sensation I had the first Tuesday night where I thought immediately, when I first thought something might be wrong, it was like that, but built up to 10,000 times. And I'm like, oh, this is what kidney stones are. Holy frick. And I bet that's not actually the level of kidney stones. And it at least like after I broke the seal, it sort of subsided a little bit. It didn't feel great, but it wasn't as bad as like that first hit. I bet with kidney stones, it stays the whole time. Dude, I can't. Oh my God. That kidney stone must be 10 out of 10. Absolutely no shot. Anything compares with that. Holy frick. I never want that. Because I feel like that was the taste. My body was like, just by the way, with your whatever swelling is happening because of your appendix, here's a little taste. We're going to do a little inflame your bladder or something like that. Going to give you a little taste of what you might get with kidney stones. So try not to get those. Holy frick. Dude, I will die. I will die. That's insane. How anyone has had to deal with that. But yeah, anyway, the surgery, I don't know. Last I remember, I was on the table and they were like, we're going to give you the sedative. Then I woke up and it was like, I don't know, 2 hours later or something in the waiting room, and that was that. And then I was out of the hospital at like 5. It was the surgery. I think I went under around 8 a.m. Left the hospital about 5 after Cara was done with stream. And so I finally pooed today. Big accomplishment. Really feel good about that. Peeing for the first day was annoying as frick. And I just like didn't want, because I even still have some numbness remaining from the anesthetic in like my hip area. So it's a little annoying. I'm sure it'll subside over time. But I was like, okay, I probably shouldn't have, because opioids I have read how like cause you to retain pee. And but I didn't know if it was like over a long time usage for someone who's maybe an addict or something like that. And so I messaged my surgeon friend, who again was at the track. I was like, would you recommend I don't do any of the opioids for the sake of being able to pee? And he was like, yeah, don't, if you don't have to do them, don't do them. You will retain urine. You might get a UTI from that. He's like, just don't, if you can manage that. And honestly, bro, this is crazy. Morphine didn't do anything for me. I was in it, bro. I was like, hey guys, can I maybe get something? And they're like, hey, we can give you the morphine. This is when I was, going into sleep in the bed. I was like, I'll take it. Bro, it didn't do anything for me. I felt a little something as it hit the IV, but it didn't I didn't really feel any different, and it didn't really address the pain. And then I did take one of the oxys when I got home. Also, I'm like, I don't feel anything happening. This isn't what I signed up for. Probably for the better, so you don't, get tempted. So anyway, does nothing for me, and is what it is. But that was me getting my appendix removed. Probably a bit of a too long cool story, bro, for a lot of people. But all that to say, I think the main point, because I just got into storytelling for some of it, was like, even if you're not keeled over, it could still be something wrong. And like, if it's just lingering, continuous pain that just doesn't feel usual, probably worth getting it checked out instead of sitting on it. Because I was like, is there any way, like, could you guys estimate how long I might have had before a full burst? And if your appendix bursts, then it's a different story on how they have to operate and treat you, and it's like a longer hospital stay. And they're like, no, we can't really estimate that. There's no way to know for sure. So it could have been the next day, could have been another week. I don't know. Or maybe it just wouldn't have burst, but I don't know. The way it was feeling, it didn't seem like it was something that was getting better. But honestly, I think on the plus side, right? So anyway, the lesson is just probably get it checked out. You don't have to be keeled over, even if the, standard appendicitis test, nausea, vomiting, rebound test from pressing in aren't really all lining up. It could still be what's causing it. So, yeah. As far someone just mentioned the shoulder pain. The surgeon did warn me in advance. He's like, some of the side effects after it, we have to fill up your abdomen with gas. And so like after the surgery, you might, as the gas diffuses and like floats up, you might feel soreness in your shoulders. And then I talked to my mom after, because my mom's had her appendix removed, and she's like, oh, that was the worst part for me was the shoulder pain afterwards. I had a little bit. It was actually the worst just when I was standing up trying to be able to pee, which was a pain in the butt for the first day. But other than that, it wasn't that bad. So, we kind of, I don't know, skipped out on most of the terrible shoulder pain. The worst pain was just needing to pee and it being too big of a pain in the butt. So kind of holding it, which is going to give me kidney stones probably at some point. And then also just the gas, because I was unable to pass gas the first day. Bro, first fart was a victory. Today, first poo, what a victory. Still a little bloaty down there, probably just swollen and stuff. But yeah, it was, now we're more at just the residual pain of being cut open. And also though, you know, when you're forced to lay on your back for a super long time, just doesn't feel, thankfully, like I had the confidence to try kind of moving to my side, like my left side last night, and I was able to do it. So it was, at least that was a little better. Otherwise, bro, my back was just hurting from my ribs, or just like, I can't deal with this position anymore. I've held it for too long. And bro, I need one of the hospital beds are cool though. They have some like anti-bed sore automatic movement that goes on. So they readjust the positioning of the cushions every now and again, and it shifts your weight around. Oh, it's so nice. It must be so expensive. But I was like, that's genius, that like anti-bed sore tech that they have. And also, obviously, you know, they can go up and down and stuff, but that was freaking cool. So anyway, yeah, I don't think I've had any side effects. The biggest annoyance is just that when I'm wearing pants, which, you know, even though I could technically not be right now, the top of like the elastic band on the pants just goes right to where the bottom incision is. And yeah, it hasn't like opened it or anything, but I just don't like the fact that it's kind of touching, and it's annoying. It's also like kind of unnerving because I think they stitch internally and then they put glue over the top, and like other than that, it's just exposed incision sites. Like they're not gauzed up. It's just there. So I'm like hoping I never accidentally. Last night I accidentally brushed one of the sites and I was like freaking out, ran into the bathroom. I'm like, oh my God, it's still good. Okay. Whew. Thank goodness. So it didn't hurt. I was just like worried that I might have you know, brushed some of the glue off or something, and then what if it opens up and then I have to go out to the hospital to get it sealed up again. But I think everything seems to be on the mend. I don't feel any of the pain that I had prior to going in. It does seem like at this point the pain is just, I was cut open a few days ago. I can't exercise for a month. That freaking sucks. I got varying info. Like some people were saying 2 weeks and then you can start going in. The surgeon though, who I feel like is probably the one to trust the most, surgeon said 1 month. And I was like, frick. So, dude, I am going to be flabby as frick at the end of this thing. I might just like, I'm going to do curls sitting in my chair. It's all I can do. Just get some dumbbells and sit here and do curls as all of the rest of my body atrophies and I can't do anything. Oh, frick. Dude, it's so bad. But anyway, now in the future, I no longer have to worry about, is that stomach pain my appendix? Is it a ticking time bomb? No, it's just something else that's maybe worse if it happens. Or hopefully I don't have any stomach pain. We'll see. But that's it. I think that's mostly the appendix conversation. Hopefully I'll be back to streaming. You know, it's still like the ab pressure that you create when you speak, which you don't really think about. I can feel that a little bit, but I assume that day over day it'll subside. So, you know, should be able to last for a little bit longer. Like tomorrow and then the next day. So yeah, appendix is gone. I'm lighter. Better lap times are in order with the weight reduction. If you want to be an F1 driver, that's apparently what you do. You get your appendix removed and then your turbo speed. So it all is part of the plan. Heck yeah, dude. So anyway, that's my public service medical info announcement for anybody. If maybe you can reference this and it's helpful to somebody in the future. So cool.